This is the I Read Comic Books podcast. This is Daniel Martinez, and this week I'm joined by two comic book fans in line for the release of the new blind polybag for the hot comic book this week. We have Paloma.
Hello, hello, hello.
And we have Nick.
Tonight we're gonna party like it's 1995 and get in losers. We're about to destroy comics, I guess.
I love that what is old is new again, and we are here. I've never had a year with so many polybags. Maybe we could talk about it at the end of the show or in the post credits, especially because Paloma probably has a lot of first-hand experience with a lot of that.
Oh yeah, working in a comic shop. I kind of like the craze because I was a young child in the 90s, so I was thrilled. Maybe now I'm like, okay, that's enough.
Yeah. Like it's fun like once or twice a year. I don't know that we need to do this every week.
Like every month?
Yeah.
Yes, every week.
So now, if you can believe it, Mike left me in charge of the show again. For some reason, he continues to do so against all advice. So here we are. And today I think we have a pretty fun show. But before we get all that out of the way, I got to ask two legally mandated questions. Paloma, how are you and how comic books been?
I'm doing pretty dang good. I had a pretty killer month in the world of comics where I was catching up on like my subs, my polls. So that was pretty dang cool. I felt like a single issues queen. But this week, I read a manga. Not too surprising, but my big read this week was a manga. And so, leading up to that, I had recently purchased this art book by Rumiko Takahashi, creator of Inuyasha, Ranma 1/2. We've all seen her artwork in some capacity. So I was flipping through it, and it had a series that maybe came out in the 2010s that I had never read before called Rin-Ne. So I read Rin-Ne Volume 1, and it's just like high school spirit world shenanigans, almost like if Yu Yu Hakusho or Inuyasha was like a modern day slice of life in high school. And it's just plain fun.
I don't think I've heard of this one, and I really like that creator, so it feels like maybe it's something kind of hidden.
Yeah.
But once you look at the art, you're like, oh yeah, this is Yu Yu Hakusho like core to the max.
Yeah, what I thought was cool is that it has like these supernatural elements still, like incorporating that, but in a high school setting, which I don't think we had seen from her since maybe like Ranma. So sometimes maybe Inuyasha. I guess she was middle school though. But what was crazy is with diving into this, and then subsequently the art book. It's called Colors, and it covers her works from 1978 to 2024. And she hasn't stopped. This lady took, I think, going off the timeline, took 2 like year-long breaks. It's just crazy. And I feel like with this one, it doesn't feel like she's an old school creator making manga. It still feels fun and refreshing. So I really liked it. And I would recommend it if you're maybe feeling bogged down by certain like modern day tropes and you just want some zero stakes. Volume 1, at least for now, 0 stakes. Very kind of like Ghost of the Week.
Looking at the cover art, I don't know why I thought this was like something from the 90s.
It looks
Danny, I was gonna say, like, when I saw that this book launched in 2009, I was like, 2009? This looks, and that's not a bad thing, but it looks older than 2009. My goodness.
And it's probably just in my head that I have that like Yu Yu Hakusho like being older than that. The other thing I kind of noticed is like this feels to me like a tamer, maybe less weird version of like Dandadan.
Yes, I would say like a low stakes if they just fought creatures and solved the problem in a day or two.
Like, let's take away a lot of the fan service and a lot of the weird tropes that we're throwing on top of it, and then you get this, which could have been an inspiration. I mean, I think it's It's really interesting. Also, the obsession of like having people see ghosts of this
Yes.
creator, it's also pretty interesting.
Yeah, it's always normal girl with a quirk, and then arguably very weird boy.
You mentioned this is part of a larger collection that you, like is a larger book.
It's its own like series. It's completed, but I was
okay.
reading like an art book, and so I was like, oh, I never actually read this series or even really heard of it.
Got it.
She described this as one of her standalone works, which maybe means shorter, but it's still like 40 like tankobon, and I was like, okay, Jesus.
Yeah.
We're gonna have to recalibrate what shorter means for manga creators.
I was gonna say, do you have? I assume you must have like the Viz subscription,
Exactly.
one, right? And that's its own, right? Like I've never.
Mm-hmm.
Gosh, I was saying I've never, but honestly, faithful listeners can catch me on this one. I think it was a couple months ago. I was talking about how I probably needed to get the Viz subscription for that that manga about like the old manga creator who's like retired and he's like guiding his previous mentor who's like now in the old guy's role. I can't remember the name of it. I think there was like a
Is it Tokyo These Days?
That's exactly
Tokyo
what it is.
Yes.
They
have all of that creator's work on the Viz app, so I feel like if you're interested in like more eclectic, the Viz app, like the Viz subscription, is worth it. You don't need to get the Shonen Jump if you don't want all that fighting.
Right, that's the deal with Viz, right? Is that Viz is split into two different subscriptions, and I think it's Viz Shonen, and I can't remember what they call Viz the other one.
Yes.
Yeah.
Viz the indie version, and then Viz Basic.
Viz,
and I mean basic as in for
Viz Basic and Viz Cool Kids. Viz, you'll never understand this. Arms crossed, cool kids. Yeah.
As a proud,
which is where Tokyo These Days is. Yeah.
I would definitely call myself a basic manga fan. So like Shonen Jump is where I go first. But this sounds pretty cool. And then also the other one I looked up. I think it's by Tokyo These Days is by Taiyo Matsumoto.
Yeah.
So very interesting. You gotta milk those subscriptions for everything that they're worth. You know, those $3-4 a month that keep increasing little by little.
Yep.
Like you gotta use them. So very cool. All right, Nick. What about you? How have you been? How are comic books?
Things have been good. I was just on the show a few days ago, so I don't know if I've that big of an update in my world. Just a whole lot of stupid sports that I've gotten myself preoccupied in for one stupid reason or another. Lions game on Sunday, and got baseball going on right now, and I've recently had my sports streaming app trying to convince me to like be like, hey, do you want to get interested in like the Pistons and hockey? And I'm like, I don't know. Like that's a stretch. I think I could do basketball before hockey. Like that's what they're trying to like twist my arm on. And I think if I had to pick between the two, I think I could be made to care more about basketball than hockey. I don't know if IRCB has hockey fans. They can come for me. That's fine. Go ahead, Danny.
Do you get a little pop-up that says, we see that you're in the greater Michigan area. Would you like to? Are you interested in any of these teams around you?
Well, right. So the streaming service has rights to Pistons, Red Wings, Tigers, but not Lions. And so
no Bears.
No Bears, different city. Oh my. But literally they were like, we're charging your account because it's the end of the baseball season. Do you want to renew for Red Wings and Pistons? And I'm like, no, not really. So we'll see.
Now for everyone that use the time codes in the description to skip to when Nick actually starts talking about comic books.
Right, to talk about books. If you want to talk about hockey, we're going to put in 2 little bumpers that you can click to hear my 40 seconds on hockey.
Brian doing work tonight.
Yeah. So I read We're Taking Everyone Down With Us, which is sort of what it feels like when it's my turn to speak. It's And I read 1 through 3. This is writing by Matthew Rosenberg, perhaps most recently known, at least for me, for What's the Furthest Place from Here. Art by Stefano Landini, perhaps best known for inking Hellblazer for nearly forever, basically. And he also did pencils on Prodigy Slaves of Mars. If you're not sure what that is, it's another Mark Millar IP mining effort. Hot take. Colors by Jason Wardy, who colors Kaya and Wasted Space, so totally talented dude. And letters by Hassan Otsman Elhau, aka one of the 3 people who letters every single damn book. Clayton Coles and maybe Clem Robbins, or who's the other just super ubiquitous one?
I read a lot by Ariana Mayer, so I think we have a few letterers coming on the come up, if you will.
Yeah, it feels like Coles is still like every other book I read. So admittedly, like, I really gave What's the Furthest Place from Here a good try. I stuck with it a while, and then I had that, like, let's be honest with ourselves. We've bought 9 issues. We've probably read maybe 3 issues. What's going on here? Moment, and realized basically I'm reading this for Tyler Boss's art, which is not a bad reason to read books, but I was kind of like, I felt like the world building and What's the Furthest Place from Here was a little half-baked or kind of ramshackle hodgepodge. I just wasn't getting into it. And they're like, oh, do you want to buy these like records that go along with it? And I'm like, no, I just kind of want the book to be good. That would be a nice starting place for me, please.
Mike's catching all the strays tonight. From just every stray bullet comes from Nick.
Right. So like you can imagine that, like, when I found myself kind of drawn to, we're taking everyone down with us, and I'm like, you know what? I think I like the art more than the pitch. Like, is this just me dealing with What's the Furthest Place from Here all over again? And like, there's just this real sense of like deja vu of just, is the artwork drawing me in and the elevator pitch is just kind of bad? And then I was like, oh wait, that's just every Mark Millar book. So there's another one. So what is the pitch of this book? Basically, you have this girl named Annalise. She's 12 years old, which is a pretty tough break, all things considered. Being a 12-year-old girl is, I mean, being 12 period is tough. I can only imagine. Who knows? Look, it wasn't great for me. We'll just leave it at that. She's got this dad. He also happens to be a mad scientist. He would probably not like that term, though. He goes by the name the Vitruvian. He happens to be sequestered on this little isolated island, which, again, if you're a 12-year-old girl, being sequestered on an isolated island is not going to do wonders for your social life. Just saying. Also, he's just been murdered by his super spy nemesis. Annalise is basically put in this position of deciding whether or not she's going to pursue a quote-unquote normal life, or if she's going to follow the path of revenge, which, of course, this is a comic book, so almost certainly we're going to go down the latter.
I mean, check the title, right?
Exactly. Check the title. You know, just saying. The world building here is a little fast and furious. I can't help but wonder. It's like the eternal Image Comics question for me over the last 6 or 7 years of their books, which is this miniseries truly ending at 6 issues? Or is it just rolling into another miniseries? If it's rolling into another, this book feels like it's just been irrationally front-loaded with lore. But if it's truly ending in 6, I guess it maybe makes sense, because we're just all of a sudden thrust into this world of leagues of supervillains and all these different people and all of their underlings and who they work with and which ones like other ones and which ones don't get along with the other ones. And it's just a lot. And yeah, maybe a more organic pace for this would have just helped. The artwork, though, God, really, really good. Really, really good. The covers are really, really good. Stefano Landini, I had never heard of this guy before. But again, I don't really hunt out Mark Millar IP mining books. But just really good. It does have, I think, if you're not a fan of that, you see this a lot in Italian pencilers. And I don't know if it's part of like some part of typical like art school in Italy, but the pencils do feel kind of flat. It does sort of come across really flat. And if that's not a thing that you're into, maybe you won't like this book. But it does feel like it does have the right texture and inks at the right moments, which makes sense considering this guy made a career out of being an inker first and foremost. The colors are great. I'm a sucker for any book that like really falls into the blues, purples, pinks spectrum. Like whether that is whether or not those are like the realistic colors or whether or not that's like the stylized approach. But this book really falls into that purples, pinks, blues, and beyond that, just a very, very colorful book. I love the designs of the characters, the designs of this like robot assistant that Annalise has. I'm really enjoying this book so far. Just happy to see just where this goes. But if anything else, this is one of those books genuinely where you can just buy this for the art. You can just totally buy this book for the art and you'll be happy.
Interestingly enough, that it's funny that you pace it this way, kind of, Nick, because the book's actually, the last issue's taking a little longer because the issue number 5 came out on August 27, but the next one won't come out till November, which is the end of the I guess arc or the series, whatever they're planning.
Yeah.
So you're kind of timing this up pretty perfectly to catch the back half of this by the time the series is actually completed. If you're gonna keep reading, I actually checked the issue number 1 when this came out. I think 2 books came out. A Tyler Boss book came out, which Mike talked about.
This is probably
recently.
the same month as You'll Do Bad Things. I'm guessing.
Yes.
Yeah. So I read both of them because I like both of the creators. Also, there was a little ash can that they put out that had both of the books on one on each side. So that was a lot of fun. I think I like this one more than the other. I like both of them, but I think I like this one more. The art had a lot to do with it. I like the robot designs, and then like
robots fucking rules.
And the twist of like we're gonna see this from like the bad guy's point of view, but you don't really know that he's the bad guy until like
and it's kind of, and they kind of also, again, tiptoeing on eggshells here. They also kind of make you wonder if he truly is the bad guy.
Yeah.
I don't know. You know, that's part of it too. But, and like, there's also kind of some mysteries about, and I guess if you only read issue 1, maybe you didn't really see this really explored, but like, the Annalise seems to be weirdly like, I think at a certain point, like in issue 2, she's like, why do I know why this gun fires like 1,400 rounds per second, like out of nowhere? And at one point she just suddenly takes like a fire extinguisher and like slams this guy in the middle of the head. And I'm like, how do you know how to do that? Like, I don't want to suddenly be the guy who's like, I don't know why this, you always hear about these, people that get mad or critique comics and they're like, the same people that were mad about Rey in Star Wars, right? And they're like, why does she seem unusually competent? And I'm like, guys, I do have to ask, how does she know to have the force to hit this guy? She's 12, right? She's hitting this super soldier in the head with a fire extinguisher. I feel like that's like a learned thing, but it does seem like the book is getting to a point of explaining these weird, her dad's a mad scientist, right? Like, who's to say? I mean,
allegedly,
are you really a mad scientist if you haven't like tweaked your test tube offspring into being a super soldier? Have you really succeeded as a mad scientist father if you haven't done this? I don't know.
Yeah, there's no mention of mother, at least not in the part that I read.
Right, not in the part you read. Yeah. I like books where there's just lingering, compelling mysteries and questions, and I feel like this book has those. So yeah.
Now, Paloma, did you check this out? Have you checked this book out?
Yeah, I've read the first 2 issues because I'm a fan of Matthew Rosenberg. I like his podcast, so I checked this out, and I thought it was quite unique compared to, because his works that I've like read have been 4 Kids Walk Into a Bank, and What's the Furthest Place from Here. So those are very like coming of age, but everyone we follow is like a kid also.
Yeah.
So this one where
and
there's
those
like
also felt more grounded, right? I mean,
Yeah.
as grounded as like, well, What's the Furthest Place was what, post-apocalyptic, right? Like,
Yeah. So it's just this is interesting. So it's like 12-year-old robots, and then these people trying to get her dad. Yeah, it's interesting compared to his other work, I will say. Still like snappy and quippy in his style, but very different. I know he's written like, I think he writes the vampires. Is it just DC versus vampires?
Yep.
But I haven't read his like that kind of work. I've only read his creator-owned stuff.
It's fun. That one, both DC versus vampires and the follow-up World War Vampire or whatever it was called. Those are quite fun. I'm also a big fan of Matthew Rosenberg. So, yeah, I think to me, when I look at an image book, I'm like, is this one I want to read monthly, or is this one I want to wait till the collection's out? And to me, this and You'll Do Bad Things were both books that I was just gonna wait till the collection. Like the issue 1 was strong enough for me to be like, I want to follow up on this, so I will. Very cool. All right. Well, let me tell you guys what I've been up to. Recently, I went to a local comic convention. Now, unfortunately, this is all taking place when there's other bigger conventions, so there was not a lot of comic book creators there from outside the area. We had a few people that are local and I kind of see every time, so it's always nice to kind of revisit. Like they become like your quarterly acquaintances, kind of, right? Because you see them every few months on the local comic scene. But the thing that I'm really getting into, and maybe we can talk more about this, I don't know if you guys like League of Legends. They're coming
I'm ignorant.
Yeah, they're coming up with a card game. It's a big multiplayer online video game. I don't know much about the game itself. And then there's the Arcane show on Netflix that's also very popular. But they're coming up with a trading card game, and I know what you're thinking. Like, you're already playing a bunch of other card games. I know. Yep. I agree. But then we've been using the test decks at the comic shop, at my local comic shop. It's pretty fun. Like it's called Riftbound, and it's a really fun system. And I play with different test decks, and they're all very different. So I can't wait to see what the actual game is going to be like. But yeah, it's a simple game that I can see getting very complicated. So we'll see if I follow up with that or not. Between Star Wars and Gundam, I don't know that I have enough time. Yeah, I know. Oh, that Gundam game. I wish I could get product. That's the only problem with that game.
Same.
So
same.
But as far as comic books go, I recently read Marian Heretic #1. This is a new book from Boom Studios, written by Tini Howard with art by Joe Jarro, colors by Walter Viamonte, and letters by Jim Campbell. In this book, we meet Sister Marian, who is a witch hunter, a mother superior, and a heretic. Guided by the goddess of her church that the other church refuses to acknowledge, when the Holy Father brands her as a blasphemer, Marian strikes a dark bargain to become their personal enforcer as she delivers judgment night after night in the city of Vespers where they live. So can she do all of this while still keeping her own like group and her sisters safe from everything? So I'm a big fan of Tini Howard as far as like everything that she's, especially X-Men stuff. Like I really like when she does like this really cool fantasy stuff. She did a lot of the Excalibur books that we've been getting in the past few years. So I think fantasy is kind of where it lives. So when I heard the idea of like, this is about a nun that's hunting witches, but also the church and the patriarchy, and like we have all these things that are kind of going up against her, and I really enjoyed the first issue. Now I'm not very familiar with Joe Jarro, but the style of this book, it just looks super cool. Like it's very dynamic, very stylized. I can see a little bit. I hate saying that things look like manga when they're just dynamic, but I also feel like a lot of more recent artists are very much inspired by manga
Oh, yeah.
style, just because they're probably fans and they kind of grew up. So yeah, if you like a book that is full of nun, or I guess one nun kicking ass, this really works. But my favorite thing about this, other than like, creatures of the night getting their heads chopped off and blood splattering all over the page, which really really checks out all my little edgelord, 2001 teen
Uh-oh.
listening to,
Someone's
I
going to
don't know.
start reading Spawn
Yeah,
any day now. Just
audio
wait.
player, yeah. But this book kind of does a little bit of a twist on like everything that's going on, and the last few pages really pose the question of like, is should she be killing these witches, or like maybe the church is the one that is doing something. There's something off about the church, and there's like
I
these.
don't want to hear any bad stuff about the church on this podcast, Danny. I feel like we
All right,
no,
I'll save it for
go
my
ahead.
I'll save it for my channel then. The
Uh-oh.
church bashing. No, but yeah, it's just an interesting premise of like, yeah, maybe you should look a little bit deeper into some of these things, and then, of course, just trying to do a lot of things because of the people you're protecting that don't really know that you're doing all this. So it's kind of like, um, it's it's like, if nobody's like thankful that you're protecting them, like how does that really kind of make you feel? So like, are you doing it for other reasons? Or so yeah, it's just a really fun book. And I was looking at the website as New York Comic Con was kind of coming up, and the amount of variant covers on this book for New York Comic Con, like if you love variant covers, New York Comic Con is probably your favorite time of the year, at least in the fall, because everyone and their family just makes a variant cover for any comic book, because they know that people are going to be chasing those things down at the convention. So I don't know if you guys have heard of Marian Heretic.
No, I just had to look it up. I wasn't sure if this was some sort of pre-existing IP that I had just never heard of, but I guess
Yeah.
it's an original work.
Yeah,
And I haven't heard anything from Teenie Howard in years, and I don't know if that's just because I'm not reading from the right publishers or what. But yeah, when you mentioned Teenie Howard's name, I was like, now there's a name I haven't heard in a long time.
Well, she doesn't do manga, so that might be one of the reasons you're not really paying attention to T. Howard, Nick.
Well, I didn't even know that Teenie Howard had switched to manga. I mean,
He doesn't.
I read manga, but I totally recognize that I read a whole bunch of weird scattershot books across all sorts of weird places. So
yeah, a lot of these indie publishers, like Boom, is doing some really cool stuff with some of these more horror kind of theme books. IDW's also got their big IDW Dark Initiative, which I guess this might date the episode a little bit, but they'd recently announced that they're doing a tie-in to the movie, the Smile movies, and also like a book in the world of A Quiet Place.
Interesting.
Which A Quiet Place on a comic book feels like the letterer is gonna have to do a lot of the heavy lifting on like doing the little whisper bubbles and the tiny text. So yeah, I think I like it. I like what these more indie publishers, and I call them indie, but I mean, Boom and IDW and Image are pretty large compared to like some of the other their publishers.
Yeah, I'm guilty of this too, but I feel like if you aren't the idea that like if you aren't DC or Marvel, you're indie is like it should be if you aren't DC, Marvel, Image, Dark Horse, probably IDW or Boom. Maybe then you can call yourself indie. I don't know.
That's a whole episode of what is.
That's a whole episode, right? Yeah. Like when you've created Spawn and made millions and billions of dollars, maybe you don't get to call yourself indie anymore.
When there are 10 Walking Dead TV shows, are you still an indie
Yeah.
publisher.
Right. Yeah. Are you really just sort of out there grinding it every day, not knowing if your publisher is going to exist tomorrow? Yeah. I don't know.
All right. Now on the back half of this episode, we have something that it's interesting because I was thinking of like, what do we want to talk about? And one question came to mind. Are we preparing already for our best of 2025? Because the year is about to just go by. Like once the holidays kick in, I think once Halloween time comes around, like the year just evaporates. I don't know if that's the same for you guys.
Oh, by
Yeah.
Halloween team, you mean like 2 months, starting 2 months
Yeah,
ago?
August. Yeah, end of July. That's it. Yeah, after July 4th, when Halloween starts for like half of the people.
Dude, I was in a Target like 2 weeks ago, and they have their own dedicated, like with a front display, like with a haunted castle that you walk under just for Halloween candy. It was insane. I don't even know. My sister is already begging me to get the inflatable Bluey family where they're all dressed up for Halloween for my niece. She's like, we need this. I'm like, Halloween is just one day.
No, you got to make it a month to really get your money's worth out of the visit to Spirit. Those Spirit stores, they need your money, Nick, to come back every year.
Yeah. God.
But let's start. Paloma, do you have anything that you're reading that you're like, oh, this would probably end up on a best of list or?
One I think is probably going to be like, I guess, an obvious best of one.
Sure.
I haven't read her previous book called Stone Fruit that came out a few years ago, but I recently read Lee Lai's latest book that came out I think in September, called Canon, and it follows a woman named Canon. She's like the most competent person in like the kitchen of this restaurant in maybe in Quebec, maybe somewhere in Montreal, because there's some French speaking. And she's the only one in her family taking care of her ailing grandfather due to like other family members' trauma. And then her best friend since like high school is quite vapid right now, very into herself. And so Canon doesn't really have anyone to rely on. And there's just cool kind of like motifs throughout the book to represent like Canon kind of like imploding. And just great cartooning from Lee Lai. I knew she wrote like a critically acclaimed book from a few years ago, but I hadn't read it, and her art, stunning. I think that'd be like an obvious best of for me, and I could see it being many other people's best of.
I think
2025 list.
Yeah, having it to be. I mean, it's a drawn-in quarterly book, and I'm looking at some of the preview art now that you kind of mentioned it, and this looks really, really cool. Like, it's very simple. Like, all the characters have like this kind of like very specific look to them as well. But people love putting a black and white book too at the.
Yes.
Let me tell you how much of a refined comic book reader I am. I read books in black and white.
Oh yes.
So that's very cool. Let's go to Nick. Nick, do you have anything that you think is going to end up on the best of?
Yeah, I feel like this one's obvious, but I think that might also just be bias speaking. So, I mean, people can weigh in on this. I feel like Out of Alcatraz needs to at least get a nomination. I mean, I feel like pretty much any Tyler Crook book probably should be nominated. I just love Tyler Crook, who illustrates and letters this book, written by Christopher Cantwell, who probably, God, I'm gonna have to sit down and do the math. I feel like the man writes like 25% of the books I read. Look, it's just a beautiful book. It's super compelling. If you're into urban legends, if you're into speculative fiction, if you're into like long lingering mysteries that just echo just decades later, this one is centered around the Alcatraz federal penitentiary escape in June of 1962. This was later adapted a couple times, but perhaps most famously into the 1979 Clint Eastwood movie, properly named Escape from Alcatraz. where you have these three inmates, and they create this escape with like elaborate paper mache masks for their cells, and they create an improvised inflatable raft. And this is sort of like the springboard for the book, because in terms of reality, like, we've never found them. Now the FBI says they've, been presumed dead, but like the case is still open and active. And so people don't know. We honestly don't know what happened. And everybody from family members to armchair sleuths to authorities have weighed in on this over the years. And so it just kind of provides a really great opening for Cantwell and Crook to say, we're going to create our own narrative of what really truly happens to these people. I guess the real non-spoiler spoiler right out of the gate is that the group does in fact survive the escape. Not much of a comic book if they all died and drowned in the water. That would be hilarious, but it would probably also be a one-shot. This is a series. And sort of we find out that like they've got help from the outside, but guess what? Nobody, whether they're inside prison or outside prison, is willing to work for free. So it kind of becomes a question of, well, what sort of debts are they going to have to pay to get this help, and who's coming after them on the inside or the outside. It's just a beautiful, beautiful book as they try to escape and make their way to Canada. And there are just some fun twists in there. But it's also not just a taut thriller. The series also kind of explores through its characters that, like, in 1962, if you were a closeted gay man, character who's in this book, or an African American woman who's able to pass as white, you're dealing with many of these characters who, unlike our three protagonists, you have these other characters that are basically forced to live, because it's 1962. They're forced to live in their own self-imposed prison of sorts, where they have to keep these truths inside. And they can't share, what they really think about, this other person that they love, or they can't share the fact that, they may pass as white, but truly that's not, their family upbringing or whatever. So it does tackle these other interesting topics for the time, and it does manage to be this taut thriller, and yet also very much speak to some of the social and moral issues of the era. At the same time, which is like what a tightrope to walk. So it's beautiful, it's heartfelt, it's heartbreaking in so many ways. Like, this is a book by the end of issue 1 or 2, you're like, I know this isn't gonna end well. Like, this is not going to be a happily ever after. Minor spoilers, guys. This isn't a happily ever after book. How could it be? But it's just heartbreaking and beautiful, and it like I said, manages to also be basically hold up a mirror to the troubled issues of the time, unfortunately, many of which we still struggle with. Great book.
Yeah, I agree. I also got to read this. I will say I agree with everything Nick said, and my recommendation is this book reads so well altogether.
Yeah.
Because I think in the end it was only like 4 or 5, but they were like
5,
this little oversized issues, so they were a little. So yeah, it's pretty much a nice little hefty collection, which I believe the book is already out in a collected edition. So they worked pretty quickly turning these around. So I had a great time reading this. It was fun, like Nick said, the speculative fiction of like real events and these people kind of navigating the world that feels very real, but also like we don't know that any of this really happened or whatever, but it could have. It's very cool. A lot more grounded than if like Quentin Tarantino gave us an alternate ending to something like this, right?
The Quentin Tarantino Alcatraz escape. I'm sure if you pitched it to him, he would probably do it. Yeah.
We got your 10th movie right here, Quentin.
Exactly. Cool. I'm sure he'd be up for it. But yeah, beautiful book. If anything else, it's a Tyler Crook book, and that alone should be enough. If you don't like Tyler Crook, I'll see you in hell, I guess.
Sorry. Nick's a diehard. I love it.
I mean, look, if he's also drawn some beautiful magic cards too. If you haven't seen those, they're fucking amazing. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Quickly pivot into a TCG podcast, but
exactly.
we'll see. I want to mention a book real quickly, and it's probably no surprise. We recently had the bad boy of comics, Jesse Lonergan, on the show. Prior to the release of his new book, Drome. Drome is fantastic. Like, Drome is a labor of love by Jesse, and you can just really tell that he wants to explore every little corner of what you can do with comic books. My only problem is that I didn't pre-order this, and now the only way that my shop could get it to me was to try to pre-order it through Diamond. So, like, I'm just kind of forever. I'm very thankful that Jesse allowed us to read it for the show. But yeah, my physical copy is in like this purgatory of like, maybe it'll eventually get to my shop. But I wanted to go through my shop just because I usually just buy everything through them. So I'm willing to wait. I've already read it, and I'm sure it'll be the collection itself. I have seen it at a different bookstore, but like I said, I had already ordered it. So it's a really nice book. But man, Jesse just doing some really cool stuff. Go check out our episode with Jesse where he talks a lot about the book, and you can really dive deep into that premise. So I'll throw it back to you, Paloma, and if you want to hit both of the books on your on your list.
For sure. One on a more personal, like, I think it deserves a best of. It's a single issue. Well, two of them, little two-parter, is Absolute Batman number 7 and number 8. Scott Snyder, who's been writing the series, still writing. But we have special guest artist Marcos Martin. Oh, his art just fits so well for this tale. Batman's just like infiltrate, like, just trying to figure out what's going on. He passed on a deal in the previous arc, and so Gotham is even worse somehow. And so he's infiltrating this company.
Sorry.
And we meet absolute Mr. Freeze, if you will. I don't even think he calls himself that. We just know that as well. People know that if you know Batman. And he's just monster after monster. Batman, even though he's massive in this universe, he's a young man. He's like early 20s, I feel like. Don't quote me on that.
Yeah.
But yeah, this two-parter, the suspense, the build-up, because he's new still. He doesn't even have much of like a team. He doesn't, but the artwork is just stellar. Seeing this version of Mr. Freeze, so creepy, such a little freak. I thought that was a great two-parter. I was like, really, we're busting out two when I read the open issue set. I was like, a two-part, come on, what are we doing? But yeah, that stole the show for me as like a cohesive little 2 issues. Stunning artwork. That would be my top.
There's a panel where you see his friend Matches Malone, and like this, whatever, I don't know, some kind of infection or something gets him, and like he just almost disintegrates in front of Bruce. And it's one of the most jarring, most gnarly things I've read into 2025. But it was so cool. So cool. So I agree with you, Paloma.
Very nasty stuff.
Yep.
And then one that I'm excited for, not a Q4 release. I think it's coming out October 8th. So it will be out perhaps very soon. It's called Witchcraft by Fantagraphics. So I feel like it's going to be on at least 3 best of lists perhaps, and it's by Sole Otero, so it's like translated recently. I'm not sure when it was originally published in Spanish, but just has 3 mysterious sisters dancing at the knife's edge of benevolent and malevolent. That's a good pitch, whoever wrote that. So it has themes of like magic, comedy, religion, colonialism, and then indigenous folklore. I'm not too familiar with like any indigenous folklore in Argentina, so I feel like that would just be really cool to see. The art is like a good mix of like kind of like big lines, very expressive, but maybe I guess thicker line work compared to like a Leli, which is like a little more simple, black and white. whereas this book has like thicker lines, maybe a little bit more line work or expression to it, and it's in color. But this book looks awesome. I think I'm gonna really like it. It's also quite thick, so I'm pretty stoked for that. And if it's Fantagraphics, I think it's easily gonna be like a best of, or like a sleeper best of 2025.
Yeah, I'm looking at the book right now, or at least the preview that you can see on the Fantagraphics website. 376 pages. That's a whole lot of book. So you're definitely getting your. It looks very cool though, very nice. All right, Nick, you want to give us one more book?
Yeah, I think the other one. God, I feel like this is probably like the biggest gimme. Like, I will be shocked if this book isn't nominated. I think the only way this book doesn't get nominated is if it's just people that don't like sequels. But Beneath the Trees, Where Nobody Sees, Rites of Spring, in my opinion, hot take, lukewarm take, like 65 degrees Fahrenheit take, I think this is better than Beneath the Trees, Where Nobody Sees.
Maybe it is a hot take.
Of course, this is written and illustrated by Patrick Horvath, also known for doing the original miniseries as well as doing Free for All, which I just read last night, which was amazing. Letters by Hassan Otsman Elhau, production and design by Nathan Wittick. Really got to highlight the production and design by Nathan Wittick. The credit pages for this book are fantastic. In the first arc, it was based in 1986, so they were very 80s. In this second arc, it takes place, I think, in 1994. And so it's the very advent, it's the dawn of the internet. So everything, like the page looks like it's like designed in Netscape Navigator, like 2.0. It's like pixelated, and it's wonderful. Like any book that falls into that sweet spot of like mid 90s dial-up screeching noises, your mom yelling at you because like you've been on the internet for 5 hours, you've been on tying up the phone line for like 5 hours. Like that's a sweet spot for me. I don't know if that's something you really click with, Paloma. I think that might be a little bit before your time. Just a little bit. Yeah. But like I fondly remember getting yelled at and my mom being like, your grandma's been trying to call us for 4 hours. What have you been doing? And I definitely was not on Morpheus or Kazaa. Definitely not downloading music, because that would be wrong. So all of that is to say, I think as good as the original 2023 miniseries was, I think this is better. You're going to get the same great art. You're getting this great setting. You're getting these wonderful characters. But I really feel that this book's 8-year time jump and the cat versus mouse narrative, which is funny considering it's an anthropomorphic book, but it's not literally a cat or a mouse. You get my point. The cat versus mouse narrative here really works. I don't want to dig too deep, because the main reason that I think this book largely works is that you do obviously have to read the previous series, which I think is an easy enough, short enough read. I think most people can pick that up. Broadly speaking, right, you're following Samantha Strong. She's an anthropomorphic bear. She runs a local hardware store in the town of Woodbrook. And like most folks in Woodbrook might take up, I don't know, fishing or knitting or woodworking as their leisure activity. But for Samantha, her preferred extracurricular is dismembering people and murder. But in the opposite order, it's murder and then she's not a sadist, okay? She just likes killing people. She's not a sadist. And while a bear might shit in the woods, Samantha sure isn't offing her neighbors there. She's got the nearby city for that. But guess what? Somebody's killing the local citizens of Woodbrook, and she has to figure out who it is before she gets in trouble. So that's basically the arc of the first one. Honestly, for me, like, I know this is going to sound a little puritanical, guys, for someone who like reads a lot of true crime stuff, but like maybe I found it a little tough to like root for someone who I'm like, gosh, I sure hope she gets away with murdering more people, because it, you know, she's trying to live her truth, I guess. You know, sorry if like part of me is like, Nick, that feels kind of wrong. Yeah, it does feel kind of wrong. It's kind of fucked up. So what I love about this arc is it follows this new character named Monica Brewer. Her brother has been missing for 8 years. Surprise, surprise, small, unsurprising spoilers. Susan killed her brother. Shocker. Yeah, and so she's been living in the city where Daniel disappeared for the last 8 years. She's been trying to follow any lead, any hope of a clue or anything that might, make this disappearance of her brother suddenly make sense. And guess what? She starts to get leads. And of course, the problem is these leads lead her closer and closer to Susan. I think this arc is so good so far. I think this is a way better arc. I like that you have these dueling protagonist antagonists. And like I said, I just found it kind of, again, sorry guys, but like it's kind of hard to root for Susan. I just can't do it. But I love this. I love like 1994 dial-up modems, just AOL free trial discs all over the place, and me just loving Winamp. Danny maybe knows what Winamp is. I don't know if that's too much of a deep cut, but it's
you
just
lost
perfect.
me there. Yeah, I was with you until that Winamp.
Yeah. That's fair. You'll have to look it up. You missed out. No, it was just like an alternative to Windows Media Player, which I think everybody remembers. I think so far this is a better book. Who knows? I feel like this book isn't going to fall off a cliff because like he's not disappointed me to this point. But I think it's such a good book. And it's just a weird, uncomfortable juxtaposition of like, oh, it's so cottagecore and beautiful, and then you're watching this bear like hog tie like a duck or some other anthropomorphized animal and like performing a lobotomy or whatever, and it's like this feels so weird.
I think cottagecore might be the title of the episode though, so I'm glad you mentioned that. I can't wait till we have the next iteration of this book, volume 3, and it jumps ahead to the early aughts, and we get like our first murder podcast about the people of
No,
Woodbrook.
you're completely right. They can time jump this book, and it would be yeah. I'm feeling that, Danny. I like this. I like this direction.
Mr. Horvath, get in touch with us. We'll make it happen.
Yeah, the only thing I don't like about that is it means that the idea that Susan is getting away with this for another decade just because I want to see Susan struggle with Y2K or whatever. Like, I don't know, man. I don't know. Like, I think like at some point in arc 1, they're like, she's already killed like 42 people. And I'm like, what the fuck?
No, here's the pitch, Nick.
Susan
actually gets caught in between. Then these people start a murder podcast, and then that incites a copycat or a copy bear.
What if the copycat is a copycat though?
Yeah.
I like that.
You can have a little closure with Susan though.
I like that.
Nice.
Well, it starts to feel a lot like Those Not Afraid at that point, but we'll let that go.
That's true.
It really does. Another great book that I would love to nominate, but I think that one's going to be a stretch. But,
no more original ideas. Now you have a few more on your list. You want to just name those off, and then we'll come back next year.
Just in terms of like, well, these are mostly like upcoming books that I'm.
Go for it.
For the rest of the year that I'm excited about. Captain Henry and the Graveyard of Time. Look, any Mike Mignola book, or Mike Mignola adjacent book. Sign me up. I know I've said this a million times on the show. Like, Mike's been totally honest about the fact that like sometimes he'll be like listed as the writing credit, and he'll be like, yeah, that was like a 2-minute call. that was like he's like, yeah, that was a 2-minute call between me and the other guy, and we just discussed it for like literally 2 minutes and hung up, and he wrote the book. And I appreciate the honesty. That's fine. This time it's Bruce Zick. Someone I'm not that familiar with. I know he's done a little work on Thor. Zick is also handling the art duties for the book, which literally means that this book is more or less a 2-minute phone call with Mike Mignola, followed by Bruce Zick doing all of the work, which Mike will completely admit to, which is fine. But any of these books that are part of the Mignola-verse or the weird second verse, which I think he calls the outer verse. I think Mike just did this to fuck with everyone. So like Joe Golem and Baltimore are technically in their own separate self-contained universe called the outer verse. I'm not sure if this is part of the outer verse or not. Yeah, the more you know. Miss Truesdale and the Rise of Man. Look, Jesse Lonergan, Mike Mignola, two people I absolutely love. Miss Truesdale getting a follow-up volume. Two bad boys, truly two bad boys of comics. Getting back together again. When I heard this book was happening, I was like, please let Jesse be on this book. Like, it would be a real miss if they didn't bring Jesse back, but it's Jesse again. So very excited. The other one I'm like, we'll see what happens, is Space Scouts. Guys, I don't know if I'm just like into Dark Horse or something, but like, here's another Dark Horse book
Is your check in the mail? Yeah.
Mike Mignola, send me some of that money.
Just come in the show. You don't have to send money.
Please. Oh my God, that would be so amazing. That would be so good. It would just be really not appropriate fanning out, and would just be totally unprofessional.
You would not be allowed within
not allowed. Yeah.
Of the studio recording.
Yeah. It would just be me screeching for like 45 minutes straight. But this is via Dark Horse's imprint called Flux House, which is basically where Matt Kindt gets to do whatever he wants. I'm excited. It's with Dave Rubin, who he's worked with before. I think most well known for Ether, which I think went on for 3 arcs. But Matt Kindt, Flux House, what is the deal? Why is every book $8? Every book is $8. Every single Flux House book I look at is $8. It can be the most interesting book in the world. $8 really almost makes that a bridge too far for me. Like, I'm sorry, I don't.
Dark Horse got to get a taste, Nick.
I don't. Like, they are oversized, but like, not to be like, I'm a nerdy nerd, but like, if you're gonna charge me double, the issue needs to be double. And even then, I'm probably still going to think $8 is too much.
Well, we'll save comic book pricing and inflation for a different day.
God.
All right.
Yeah.
I have one more book, and this one's also very early in the early stages of 2025. But Everything Dead and Dying from Image Comics.
Sure.
This is by Tate Brumble, who you may know for Barbarian or Batgirl currently. With art by Jacob Phillips. And we talk about Jacob Phillips a lot on this show. I mean,
all
that Texas Blood.
Deservedly so, yes.
It's a really cool idea. This sole survivor in a zombie apocalypse in his rural farming community. But instead of Jack taking out all these zombies and trying to stay alive, for some reason, he's just kind of chosen to continue living alongside them, including his husband and adopted daughter that they fought so hard to have before everything happened. So when this town is discovered by outsiders, Jack becomes the only thing standing in the way of those who want to kill his family for good. So it's like such a cool twist on like I know zombie books have been like, can we do anything new with zombies? Like, well, I think we can. I think Tate Brumble and Jacob Phillips are like, hold our respective beers. Because we can't do new stuff with zombies. It's really, really cool. I am very excited. It's only a 5 issue, so you should be able to read it by the end of the year as well. So
I'll have to give this a try, because I have issue 1, and I went the exact same place. I said zombies, and also unfairly I went, Jacob Phillips, why are you not working with Chris Condon? Is that is that legal? Like, I'm going to call the cops. Which was another kind of, and again, like, I get it. I will say the one thing that really, I'll still pick it up. It sounds like I'll give this a try, but I looked at the previews and I just did not like the coloring of the book. Especially because, and I'm not saying this is Nick White's Unfair Comic Book Expectations 2025. Like, the cover is so different from the interior. And like, obviously not everybody is trying to pull a bait and switch. It's not 1995, you have a Jim Lee cover on the front, and then you've got 7 different DC pencilers trying to hit a deadline on the inside of the book. Like, I get that, but there is such a stark difference between the cover and the interior that it's a little jarring. And I feel like the coloring just didn't do Jacob Phillips didn't
I think
do him justice.
I think it works, and it's there for a specific reason, especially when you're seeing kind of like these, maybe kind of, I'll call them flashbacks, I guess. So, yeah, let us know what you think. We'll definitely.
Wasn't the cover his dad?
I'm not sure on the main cover, so that would be interesting. Yeah, we'll definitely have to look at that, because I do know exactly what you're saying. At least the main cover doesn't feel. I think Jacob Phillips did another cover that is more in vibes with what you find inside of the book.
Yeah, and to be fair, like the main cover being the main cover, if the interiors looked like the main cover, that book would probably take months to draw. So like I'll be fair, I can be reasonable sometimes. Like that would be crazy. So yeah, we'll have to give it a shot.
We'll revisit this later on towards the end of the year. You guys know that we love to put out our best of 2025 list from IRCB, which you can check out last year's list on the website if you are looking for comic book recommendations and are forever behind on your reading, like all of us here. As we get out of here, first of all, I want to thank Mike for allowing me to host the show. Maybe it's an unwise decision, but it's happened, and now we cannot take it back. I want to thank Paloma and Nick.
We all get to live in it now. No, go ahead.
Yeah, I want to thank Paloma and Nick, of course, for being on the show. I want to thank Brian for proof listening. And until next time, comics are good, and so are you.